Angela. I'm giving this testimony from the UK to the glory of God the Father. Barely after a year after my mom died, my brother died. It was a very rude shock to me. I cried, I wept, and I kept asking God questions. I never got answers. My uncle encouraged me, encouraged myself and my siblings that everything will be okay, that we should just stay focused and just trust God. 3 weeks after my brother was laid to rest, my uncle died. I'm like, this is the man that was virtually encouraging us. What is going on around us? I know we needed to pray. Few weeks after, I became very unwell, and I kept telling everyone around me that I wasn't feeling well. I got an appointment. I went to the GP, and tests were carried out. Barely 24 hours, I got an emergency call that I needed to come to the hospital immediately, or they are going to send an ambulance to come and get me. And I went to the hospital myself, and they asked me, are you feeling faint? Are you dizzy? Do you have chest pain? I kept saying, no. And they said, your blood levels are very low. We need to transfuse. I first thought it was a joke. And there I was, 3 transfusions, blood, iron, and I was in total shock. I became very fearful. I became afraid because I didn't know what was going on around me. All I kept saying was, Lord should have mercy on me. Lord should have mercy on me. And at the end of the day, they were not sure what had caused the shortage of blood. And then they said they needed to run a CT scan. And then they did all the CT scans, all the MRIs. And then they came out with this diagnosis. Madam, we have found something on your breast, left breast, and we need to do further investigation. Further investigations were done, and I ended up having a biopsy. And 3 days or 4 days after I had that biopsy, I was so broken, and I sat down and I was watching NSPPD that day. And Pastor Jerry said, you are there, you are listening to me. A sample was taken from you. It will not go the way the devil planned it. And when the biopsy result came out, they said, it was cancerous, it had cancer, they need to operate immediately and know the extent, if it has spread, different types of things were said to me that day, and I was really, really afraid, and I was weeping. And then they attached a nurse to me who would prepare me for the operations and all that. And the nurse kept telling me, don't worry, and when we finish the operation, if it's not clear, you come back for the second operation. All I knew was I was just crying. Then by the 3rd appointment with the nurse, she kept repeating the word, and I looked at her, and I heard that voice clearly saying, reject this word that this nurse is telling you. And immediately she said it. All that came out from my mouth was, what God cannot do does not exist. And she said, what's that? And I replied her, what God cannot do does not exist. The nurse that has been so friendly all these weeks preparing me for the surgery, she became angry. Her countenance changed. If my daughter wasn't there with me, everyone would think, oh, maybe I made up the story. And my daughter looked at her, and she said, all I'm saying is you will need to come back for a second surgery. She repeated it, and I said, what God cannot do does not exist. And then she handed me the papers and said, you need to read these books, you need to read them. At that point, I told myself I must not miss any of the prayer altars, 7 a.m. And I made it a point of duty to start praying, writing my notes, congratulating myself. So on the day of the surgery, which was June 28, I said, God, I kept claiming all the prophecies. It will be reversed, no surgery. So on the surgery morning, I went through all the same procedure, the scans, the mammograms, the MRIs, and I was prepared for surgery. In my head, I'm like, Kai, hey, God, I be Pastor Jerry, don't scam me. But I had this faith like, go on, God is with you. And I went into the theater. I was put to sleep, so I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was that I looked at the clock in the theater, and it was 5:25 p.m. And by the time I woke up, everyone was staring at me, and I was wondering what was going on. And this look on their faces was like surprise or shock or something. And then the surgeon came and said, if I wasn't the one that operated on you, I would say something went wrong somewhere. And I looked at him. He said, well, we checked all your lymph nodes, and all what we found before, we did not find them. Then when we opened up the breast, the lump fell out, like someone had already gone there to do an operation, and the lump just came out. So literally you spent, an operation that would have taken 2.5 hours, we just spent 40 minutes from putting you to sleep and putting back the sutures and bringing you out. Well, we'll still do a pathology test on the lump that was taken out to see if everything was clear. And that was how I was discharged, and I came home and I kept claiming all the prayers and kept saying amen. By the time the pathology result came out, they said all cleared. What God cannot do indeed does not truly exist. Thank you, Pastor Jerry. Thank you, Pastor Oguru. Thank you, Pastor Oke. Thank you, Mommy Eno. Thank you, all the NSPPD crew. Thank you for being a voice in our generation. God.